Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you are new on my channel, then welcome. So today's video is a very fun one, and I'm sure you saw it from the thumbnail and from the headline as well, but I will be doing a video about the makeup mistakes that I used to make. But again, I do have to give a few disclaimers just so nobody misunderstands the whole concept of the video. So when I call them mistakes, they are not necessarily mistakes, they are just things that I don't like on myself, that I don't like how it looks, and so I consider them to be mistakes for me personally, because I feel that doing different things and using different techniques just looks way more flattering on me. So that is why if you look at this video and you recognize yourself in some of the steps that I'm doing on the sort of no-no side, please don't take any offense and don't take it as you're doing something wrong. I'm just pointing out the things that I used to do that maybe didn't do my face any favors, and that's basically what the video is going to be about. And also I do want to put it out there that all the mistakes that I'm doing in this video, I didn't necessarily do simultaneously. A lot of the things I just did at one time or one point in my life, and then I decided that, okay, it's maybe not the best look for me, and so I changed it up. This is just like a medley of all the things that I used to do in my past, but you'll see all of that shortly for yourselves, because I am very excited to get into this video. So that's what we're gonna do. I have already moisturized this side of my face, so I will use this side to show you guys what I'm doing now and what I think that actually looks good on me. This side feels kind of tight, but we're gonna have to go with it, because as the first thing that I remember never doing was prepping my skin, and that is probably one of the biggest mistakes of all, because if you don't have a nice, clean and moisturized and ready for makeup skin, the makeup is just not going to look all that great. Even if it looks okay at first, then it definitely won't stay on the face looking very great for a long time. And I think it's also way more uncomfortable on the skin. So that is why skin prepping is so important. But for the longest time, I did not even think about it. I did not understand it. I didn't know anything about it. So I'm not going to do anything to this side of my face. I'm just going to let it be. And on this side, I am going to do some more prepping besides moisturizer. I am first going to use the MAC Fix Plus, because you guys already know I love that extra moisture. I'm going to apply the NYX Angel Veil Primer on the whole of my half face, mainly focusing it on the nose and cheek area where I have more noticeable pores. And I'm going to apply the L'Oreal Infallible Luminizing Primer. This is rather new to my collection, and I'm going to put that on the spots where I would normally highlight. I'm going to take the MAC Soft Ochre Paint Pot, which you can already see through because I have used this quite a lot, and I'm going to put that all over my eyelid to create an even base for the eyeshadows to stick onto. And I'm also going to apply the Catrice Camouflage Cream Concealer in the Wake Up Effect. Even though this is also a cream concealer, it is more of a color correcting concealer. I very much like doing that underneath my eyes because it brightens everything up, and it also gets rid of those dark circles. And I didn't know anything about color correctors for a very long time, so this side is still staying as it is. And as the last step in the prepping, I'm taking the Morphe 25B palette, and I'm taking this matte cream shade at the top, which is very close to my skin tone, putting it all over my eyelid to set down the primer, make sure that it is not tacky anywhere. Probably the biggest mistake that I made was going for a foundation that was clearly too dark for me. There was a period in my life, which I remember way too vividly, where I bought just a straight up orange foundation because I wanted to look tan. And I didn't realize that when I apply a very dark foundation on my face, but I'm white all over, it wouldn't look that convincing to people. I was wearing that orange foundation like there's no tomorrow. And that is why I'm going to apply the EX1 Invisiwear Liquid Foundation in the shade F100. This actually does match me in the summertime when I am more tan, but right now, when we are in winter and I am quite pale, this is clearly too orange for me. I am being careful not to apply on my neck. Going over my eyelids and putting foundation underneath my eye. I went over the brows as well, of course. We always used to do that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to apply a beautiful shimmery brown eyeshadow all over my eyelid. There's no blending, there's no transitioning, nothing like that. We are just going to apply eyeshadow. And I'm going to go in the shade over here. See how beautifully this is creased? I don't know if you can see, but It has beautiful creases. Anyway, we are going to ignore that because who cares? And we are going to apply the bronze color on the lid. So I didn't wear eyeshadow all that often, all the time, because, well, first of all, I was quite young, and I didn't really think that it was all that necessary. But for the sake of this video, we are going to apply eyeshadow. And I'm putting that on my crease as well. Oh, wow, look at that shimmer. It looks very defined, not too much blending, because, I mean, why do you need it? And you can clearly see the shimmer all on my eyelid, which I was clearly going for. Okay, and on this side, we are going to first go into a transition color, the second shade in the first row. On a fluffy blending brush, I am going to apply that in my crease. This shade over here, and I'm taking the same brush and putting it over the area that we just laid down. Taking this shade over here, I'm going to put that in my lower crease. Because I have hooded eyelids, it is very important for me to apply matte shades on the hood of my eye and in the crease, because dark matte shades do not emphasize the hood on the lid, whilst shimmering colors bring the area more forward and they make it look more apparent. Now I'm going to go back in with the fluffy brush just to blend the edges. I'm going to take the shade over here, taking a lighter color on the front end of the lid. It opens up the eye versus darker shades which make your eye smaller. Now it's time to give some dimension to the outer corner of the eye as well. And for that, I'm again taking a matte color, but this time I'm taking a darker shade, going back into the initial crease brush and buffing out the outer edges. You can clearly see the difference, how much more awake and how much more lifted this eye looks versus this eye, which just looks kind of sad and droopy and very heavy. But we are moving on, and next up it is time for mascara. Now I did already curl my eyelashes, because even then I realized how bad my eyelashes were. I'm going to apply the Essence Volume Stylist Lash Extension Mascara, and on this side I am just going to apply it normally, give it a nice even coat. One of the biggest things that I used to do when applying mascara was that I applied so much of it that it clumped up my lashes into like 5 hairs. So I'm going to layer mascara on this side and show you exactly how horrible it looks. I'm trying to show you guys as best as I can, but it's just way too heavy. They fall flat in any case, but with a ton of mascara just burdened on them, they look really, really bad. Finishing up this eye, I'm going to apply some falsies, and this is not really a mistake that I didn't wear falsies. As I said, not all of the things in this video I consider to be mistakes, it's just something that I didn't do. But because this side represents how I like to do my makeup now, I cannot go without falsies. I'm going to apply the Model 21 eyelashes in the style 43 plus 45. Now for foundation on this side, I'm going to use the DiorSkin Star Foundation in the shade 011, and I'm going to apply it with a beauty blender instead of a brush, because I like how it makes the skin much more skin-like. And I'm also not taking the foundation right underneath my eyes because I will be applying concealer there, and I don't want to overwhelm the under eye area with too much product because there's very delicate skin there, and also it will just crease and end up looking very heavy and cakey. And I'm also taking the foundation ever so slightly down my neck as well, because I want to make the transition from my face to my body more smooth. I used to apply quite a heavy amount of cream concealer, like thick cream concealer underneath my eyes, because I thought that would cover them up more. I'm going to use the Catrice Camouflage Cream Concealer in the shade Ivory. And then on this side, I'm going to use the Liquid Camouflage High Coverage Concealer by Catrice, and this is in the shade Light Beige. And the main part which makes this much more suitable underneath the eyes is that it is liquid and it is way more lightweight, so it won't look as heavy underneath the eyes, and it will also blend into the skin much more effortlessly. And I'm taking my damp beauty blender to buff it into the skin. When I think back to my olden makeup days, I didn't used to fill in my brows at all. I didn't realize how odd it looks when your eyebrows are not filled in and the rest of your face is. And I remember so well how it used to drive Rosie crazy. She hated it because brows were like her thing, and it just annoyed the crap out of her that I didn't do anything to my eyebrows. So I'm going to fill in my eyebrow on this side only. And I am very quickly taking a small detailer brush and using the same Camouflage Cream Concealer by Catrice and running it under the brow just to clean it up. It's time to set underneath the eye. For that, I'm taking the Too Faced Born This Way Ethereal Setting Powder. First smoothing out the creases and then setting the under eye. And now on the other side. I love loose powder, and I thought that loose powder goes over the whole face, which I mean it absolutely can do, and I know that a lot of people do take powder on the whole face, but because my skin is rather dry, putting powder on the whole face isn't really a very flattering look for me. I normally can only keep the powder on the under eye section, and that's pretty much it, and I don't set the rest of my face, but I used to do that quite religiously. So I'm going to take the same loose powder and I'm going to put a shit ton of that all over this side. Next up, I'm going to finish up underneath the eyes. So I'm first taking this shade over here, which we used in the crease as one of our transition colors. The dark shade that we used in the outer corner, I'm going to put that very close to the lower lash line and keeping it on the outer third of my eye only. Taking the fluffy side of the Anastasia brush and just blending over the whole thing. And I'm also going to put the Essence Long Lasting Eye Pencil in the shade Say Highlight, which is just a nude eye pencil. I'm going to put that in my waterline as well. And this again gives the impression of my eye looking bigger. I'm going to apply some MAC False Lashes Extreme Black Mascara on my bottom lashes. I really didn't think that you needed to apply eyeshadow on the lower lash line, but I did think that it was very important to have a dark, defined, super black lash line. I used to apply a black eye pencil on this outer rim of my eye just in the lower lash line, and I would apply a shit ton of mascara there as well. So now I'm going to apply some brow bone and some inner corner highlight because that again makes the eye even more awake and even more open. First putting it very lightly on the brow bone and blending it out with my finger. On this side, I did like my brow bone highlight because even back then I knew that if you put a highlighting shade underneath the brow, it's going to lift the brow, but I'm going to apply it a bit more heavily. The reason why I like to use highlighter first before bronzer or anything else is because that way I can make it look like the highlighter is more sort of blended into the skin rather than sitting on top of the skin. And then to make sure that the highlighter really blends into the skin, I'm taking e.l.f. small tapered brush and going over all of the highlighted areas. And on the other side, I am not going to apply highlighter at all because when I was growing up, we didn't have highlighter. And the reason why I was applying the highlighter underneath the brow bone was because usually, as far as I can remember, there was always a very stark white, like very bright eyeshadow alongside the dark shimmery eyeshadow. I just decided to use this, but yeah, we didn't have highlighters back then. I'm going to first apply bronzer like I normally would on this side. So I'm taking the Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer, which is my favorite bronzer, and this is also in the shade Bronzer. I've said bronzer like 1,000 times. On a slanted face brush, I am using that to contour a bit, just carve out my cheekbone ever so slightly, and also bronze up the skin. I did love bronzer even back then, and I loved applying heaps of it, but maybe the placement and the amount wasn't quite appropriate, let's just say it like that. And I'm going to go into town, and probably a bit lower than I would normally take my bronzer. You guys know I'm not a huge blush person, but that wasn't always the case. So I'm going to apply the darkest blush that I own. It is the Becca Luminous blush in the shade Snapdragon. I recall very clearly that I had a blush, which I'm pretty sure I bought from the same store that I bought the orange foundation from. It was really, really dark and it was borderline red. Oh, and I used to do this. I used to smile and then put it on the, oh my God. Put it on the apples of my cheeks because that's what I thought you had to do. You had to smile and put the blush on the apples of the cheeks. But since times have moved on and I'm not really a fan of this look anymore, I am going to take my L'Oreal True Match Super Blendable Blush in the shade Barely Blushing and putting it on the upper part of my cheekbone and bringing it more so to the hairline. And also a very important part of my makeup routine now is adding the Givenchy Healthy Glow Powder in the shade number 2. This is probably a bit too excessive, but I like to make sure that everything is blended into the skin. And I go over all the areas where I laid down the powder. And now there's just lips left. I do have to mention that this is not a mistake in any single way. I never used to wear any kind of lipstick ever. It was always just lip balm. I do love wearing lip balm all the time, and I even to this day sometimes wear makeup looks where I don't put anything on the lips, but that is normally when I don't have anything else on my face, basically doing like a no makeup day. When I have a full face of makeup on, I tend to finish it off with some kind of lip color. So on this side, I'm going to use the Jeffree Star Velour Liquid Lipstick in the shade Mannequin. And now because I want this makeup look to last on my face, and I also want the products to look like they are melted into the skin, like they are one with the skin, I'm going to first use the MAC Fix Plus again, and then I'm going to go over it with the Milani Make It Last setting spray to lock it in place. And this is it, guys. This is how I ended up looking, and oh my God, I cannot look at myself in the monitor because this eye looks literally half the size than this eye. As I said at the beginning of this video, I did not do all of those steps at the same time. I maybe did some of them at the same time, but not all of them. So this looks way more crazy than what I actually looked like. But all of those things I did at one time or another in the past. I feel like I have come a long way. This was such a fun video to film for me, guys. It brought back some memories and also made me cringe like massively at the same time. Thank you guys so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video then please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I am going to run to the bathroom now to wash my face. But thanks so much guys for hanging out with me, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!